Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So, it is currently February 1st. It is the start of a brand new month, and that means we are going to be doing another 2024 presidential election prediction on this channel between Donald Trump, who is almost certainly going to be the Republican nominee at this point, even more certainly than he was at the beginning of January, going up against Joe Biden in a rematch of the 2020 election. It will be the first rematch in a very long time, all the way going back to the 1956 presidential election. And we're going to be filling this map out. Whoever crosses 270 electoral votes first is going to be the winner of the 2024 presidential election, and that we know. But first, I would like to take a look at the polling to see what it shows, and Donald Trump still has a lead in the popular vote by nearly 2 percentage points over Biden. He leads every single poll in the aggregate except a couple, which is crazy because he only led in 2 polls nationally the entire calendar year of 2020, but he is the front runner, not just in the Electoral College, but also the popular vote, which is absolutely insane given the fact that polls have historically underestimated Donald Trump and Republicans when Trump is on the ballot, and that is true. So it's interesting to look at, but we'll also be looking at some of the swing state polls as well when we fill this out. Obviously, early polls, they're not everything, and they're also not nothing either, but it's clear if the election were held today, there is a clear favorite, and that favorite is Donald Trump. So we're going to fill this out, but I must mention the fact that Joe Biden, his approval rating is in the gutter. It is currently minus 14 nationwide. It's approaching Jimmy Carter levels, and when you poll him on individual issues like the economy, immigration, etc., he's down by more than 20 points. On some issues, he's down by even 30 points or more, which is absolutely atrocious. So we're going to fill this map out. We will start with the safe red states, and we will make our way to the safe blue states, the likely states, the lean states, and then the more competitive tilt states or battleground toss-ups as this video goes on. So without further ado, let's fill all of this out for Donald Trump here. He will win all of these states in the deep red column by 10 points or more. That means these states are safe Republican states, which we can add Iowa and Ohio, given trends, to this column, along with Maine's 2nd congressional district up there, Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, Alaska, South Carolina, all going in the safe Republican column, which means that out of the gate, Donald Trump has 149 electoral votes safe. Biden, on the other hand, he will take the western seaboard. Colorado has kind of moved away from Republicans as well. Illinois, and then much of the eastern seaboard here is going to be going in Biden's column in a safe margin. And yeah, it's very likely Donald Trump makes gains in a place like New York, a place like California, in maybe even a place like Illinois, and that will help him win the popular vote, but I'm not entirely sure that it's going to be by enough to move any of these states into the likely or lean Democrat column just yet. Also, we'll throw Maine's 1st district in there on top of it. So, and Hawaii, you cannot forget about Hawaii. So Biden out of the gate will be receiving 191 electoral votes. So his floor is technically higher, but Trump gets a lot more electoral votes when you factor in the likely states. The state of Florida, that has moved away from Democrats. Biden, for some reason, he's going to try to contest it, but there's more of a chance that Minnesota flips red than Florida flips blue at this point, and I don't even believe it's particularly close. I mean, the state has had a lot of retirees from the Northeast move in, a lot of boomers. Republicans have been doing very well there. The Democrat Party in Florida is absolutely broken. Trump is going to be just fine in Florida. He probably wins it by closer to 10 than he does just barely winning it like he did back in 2016. The state has changed. And Texas may be another state where Republicans may be turning a corner. There was a poll that came out the other day that showed Donald Trump up over Joe Biden by like close to 10 points in the state. And with Hispanics potentially moving to the right, or at least you're seeing a little bit of a corner turn there in some of these metro areas, that's a good sign. And also a lot of transplants from the Midwest and from California. They're not exactly breaking heavily for the Democrats outside of the lone exception of Austin, which is not insignificant, but still, I mean, Republicans have lost ground in the state in recent years, but what we're seeing is kind of a shift within the state. The state party's competent. They've been milking the border issue very well. And as a result, I think that because Biden's so unpopular, Trump is going to win the state by more than he won the state by in 2020. It's possible the margin looks even closer to Trump's 2016 victory in the state of Texas. So we're going to be filling out the likely Democrat states here. We can start off with New Mexico, which I think you might see some gains among Hispanic voters and blue-collar white voters for Trump, but it's not exactly going to be enough to move the needle, even though I believe if the state had a more competent Republican Party, it could be a lot more competitive. Also, the state of Virginia, which voted for Biden by around 10 points. And while it's possible it could be lean Democrat, it could be within 5, depending on how the election shakes out. As of right now, I'll be putting it in the likely Biden category. He probably wins it by, 6 or 7, but still an improvement from 2020 for Donald Trump in the state. And the state of Maine as well. We can put the state of Maine in the likely Democrat column. So now we're going to be filling out the more competitive states, the more lean states, the states that will be going for Donald Trump or Joe Biden by 2 to 5 percentage points. And we're going to start off with Donald Trump, and that includes the state of North Carolina. And you could look at the polling in North Carolina. I mean, it's ridiculous. Some of the polls that have had Biden up usually historically drastically overestimate Democrats in early polling. But even then, we see polls from Bloomberg that have Trump up by 10. The Hill is Trump up by 11. I don't think that Trump's going to win the state by double digits, but the Republican Party there, they're very competent, and black voters are a little bit disillusioned with Biden. That doesn't mean that you're going to see them leave the Democrat Party and vote for Trump in huge numbers, but what it means is that turnout will dip overall. You're not going to get COVID-level turnout, which is going to help Republicans in North Carolina. I think the margin's going to be closer to 2016 in the state than 2020, possibly even bigger than 2016. And on top of that, Georgia, I think Georgia will also flip into the lean Republican column. Democrats are pulling money out of Georgia. You look at polls in the state of Georgia, Trump is leading the aggregate by 7.2 percentage points. That is not an accident whatsoever. And because you see all of these third-party candidates potentially being on the ticket, that is going to help out Republicans in a lot of these swing states, because people that don't like Biden but also don't like Trump are going to have other options, so they're not just going to fall back and vote for Biden. So as a result, I think North Carolina and Georgia both, you're not going to get COVID-level turnout. And there's still a lot of deep red areas in Georgia that are still very deep red, and with increased turnout among those voters because of disdain for Biden, you possibly could have the state getting even redder. I think the state goes for Trump by a few points at this point, but we'll have to see. Up next, we have the state of Wisconsin. The state of Wisconsin, I believe Donald Trump is going to take it by a couple of points. I think it could shock people. Yes, certain parts of suburban Milwaukee have moved away from Republicans, and that is true, but still, they have a very high floor in a county like Waukesha. Ozarkie's the one that's moving far to the left, but again, its population is much smaller than Washington County, which even, in the Trump era has not moved to the left at all. And the state's educational demography, very favorable to Republicans. The electorate's 50+% non-college educated white, and you still have a lot of room to rebound in some of these smaller metro areas like Green Bay, the Fox Cities, the Driftless area, etc. I know Democrats are going to do their best to fire up voters in Madison, but still, if they're not getting the black turnout necessary to win in Milwaukee, but Trump is getting out his base, I think you could see Trump win the state by a surprisingly large margin. Also, polls in Wisconsin have Trump leading. Usually, they've not been good. I know the midterms, people will point to the midterms and say, well, the state polls in the midterms did underestimate Republicans, but still, Trump is a turnout supercharger unlike any other, and that we know. And on top of that, we also know the polls have vastly underestimated Trump in Wisconsin compared to other Republicans, so that also should be taken into account. So I'll put Wisconsin as lean Republican for now. In terms of the lean Democrat states, we have the state of New Hampshire, where I do expect Biden to win despite his kind of underwhelming primary performance. I think a lot of the reason for that is because a lot of Democrats just registered to independent and then voted for Nikki Haley just to own Blumph. But other than that, New Hampshire, is it possible if the third-party vote share is high enough that it could flip? It's possible, but as of right now, I just don't see it, but we could reevaluate it later on. Same thing goes for Minnesota. I think Minnesota is a sleeper flip if the third-party vote share is high. Usually when the third-party vote share is high, Republicans have a very good shot at winning elections in Minnesota, whether you want to go all the way back to the Senate race in 2002, whether you want to look at the 2016 presidential election, compare it to the 2020 presidential election. Yes, Minneapolis is a very, very big stronghold for Democrats in the state, but they were fired up in 2020 over the BLM stuff, even though traditionally you would expect the opposite. But there's a lot of very far left individuals in Minneapolis, but those are also the same people to be a little bit disillusioned with Biden. Many of them could go for Cornel West or Jill Stein or even RFK Jr. in some cases if he's on the ballot. So Minnesota will put as lean Democrat. I think the margin's narrow, but I don't know if it's going to be enough as of now. And Nebraska's second congressional district, I think that this one has just moved a little bit too far away from Republicans. It's very possible it ends up as likely blue, even if Trump wins nationwide by a decent margin. So we have 4 states remaining. These are going to be the most competitive states of the 2024 presidential election cycle. We're going to be starting off with none other than the Keystone State of Pennsylvania, which likely dictates the path to 270 electoral votes for either side. Make no mistake about it. It's very likely that whoever wins Pennsylvania is going to win the presidency. And for Joe Biden, if he can't win Pennsylvania, there's a very good chance he does not get reelected because Trump is doing very well in Georgia. If he gets his 2020 states and then adds Georgia and only adds Pennsylvania and nothing else, Donald Trump will become not just the 45th, but also the 47th president of the United States. And Pennsylvania polls have been a little bit all over the place. Typically, the early polls in Pennsylvania do overestimate Democrats, and that we know. Trump is still in a decent position to go out there and win the state. Biden was able to coast by on being this unknown quantity, Scranton Joe, in 2020. That doesn't work anymore. Trump is chasing these blue-collar voters, which he left off the table in 2020. He's chasing these union voters where he needs to win. He's probably going to be doing better in Western Pennsylvania, even better than he was. And Biden may gain among some college-educated voters in Southeastern Pennsylvania, but is there really enough of a margin for him to grow to offset potential losses in Northeast Pennsylvania? That we don't know. Keep in mind, this state was razor thin when the popular vote nationwide was like 4.5 points in favor of Biden. I think Trump picks it off as of right now. This is subject to change. I think it's going to be a very, very, very close state. And also the same thing goes for Michigan, which for some reason Donald Trump is leading the polls in Michigan by 5.1 percentage points. The polls have underestimated Trump in Michigan twice, but there's a lot of room for growth in Michigan. You have Wayne County being hollowed out, which is the Democrat stronghold there. Trump could get in the mid-30s there. He'll run it up in a lot of these red areas, which are not just all like desolated rural areas. They're also like small metros like Battle Creek, Jackson, some of these other places. And he'll probably lose a little bit in the Grand Rapids area, but I don't even think he's going to lose in places like Oakland County very much, where he has a high floor despite it being a suburban county. He could gain in Macomb County, where a lot of auto workers are. He'll run it up outstate. And with a higher third-party vote share, I think Michigan will be delivered in Donald Trump's column once again. And the state party is new leadership, which will also help Trump out because they will likely be more competent. So there's 2 more states to fill out. We have the state of Arizona, where Donald Trump so far in the polls is doing well, but he's below 50 in the state of Arizona. And honestly, it seems like Biden's campaign is just going after these woke white suburbanites and trying to court like never Trump Republicans, which don't exist in high numbers in a lot of these other swing states. But Arizona, I mean, they're not a majority, but they're sizable. And it is true that the Green Party is going to be on the ballot, but I do feel like as swing states go, this is one where the Republican Party, who knows who their chairman's going to be? You talk about Maricopa County growing, a lot of liberals are moving there, and that we know. I think the border counties get redder. I think this state could go either way. I think that just for the sake of this video, changing up the prediction a little bit, I think Arizona, that might be the swing state that Biden is going to be able to hold on to / pick off. And Maricopa County, a lot of stuff going on there that's complicated, and I would not be surprised if Biden wins it, after 2 to 3 days of counting. So Nevada, on the other hand, I do believe Donald Trump is going to go out there and pick off the state of Nevada. You look at the polls in Nevada, which usually are not all that accurate, but Trump is doing very, very well in them, and at least the ones we've seen so far. He's leading by 7. I don't think that holds at the end of the day, but still, I do expect him to go out there and win the state when it's all said and done, especially because unlike what we're seeing in Phoenix, Las Vegas and the Vegas Metro in Clark County is actually moving to the right. They flipped the governorship there. Some other statewide offices went red in 2022. They would have flipped the Senate seat there as well if not for being outspent 4-1 and having a snowstorm affect turnout in Reno at the 11th hour. So I think Trump will get Nevada. You look at Nevada, a lot of Hispanic voters and white working class voters in the state. Both groups are moving right. I think that that's going to deliver Nevada for Donald Trump, and Donald Trump will defeat Joe Biden. He will defeat him by a score of 301 electoral votes to 237 electoral votes. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.